Yay!
Let's talk about Darth Maul.
Yeah, I get 5. Sounds good.
Yeah. Okay. We are here.
Hi, guys.
Hey, guys.
I am Robert Trait. I'm the editorial director. This is...
Evan Liss. I'm the director of video media.
Oh, is that what it is
Yeah,
now?
that's
It keeps changing. I don't
That's
know
what I was told.
really
That's
what
what
it
I
is.
got.
We saw the news today that Collider.com is reporting exclusively that the Star Wars films are now on hold. That
The
is
Star
the
Wars spin-off.
standalone. Whatever.
The Star Wars story.
Yeah.
Anthologies.
Yes. I remember it used to be called, I think it was called Anthologies at one point,
Yeah.
and then they changed it to a something Star Wars story.
I mean, they
you
are
know.
anthologies. That's
Yes.
what they are.
So we thought we'd get on and we'd talk with you guys. Yeah. Doug, what's up? Doug, you seem to be Infinity Gauntlet, face palming right there. But please, chime in. We wanted to just address a few things. Now, Evan and I are clearly at different ends of the spectrum here. I grew up with Star Wars. It has always been a part of my life. But I do remember the 2 years, barely, before there was no Star Wars. So this is something that I have experienced my whole life. However, you have had Star Wars since the prequels.
Yeah, the prequels came out when I was a kid. So I had all the prequel movies. And then there was I still had that same big jump before there were more Star Wars movies, too.
Right, but you never had, the special edition, the re-release in the theater.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, you would have been, 3?
I was born in 1993, so, yeah. I don't know when the special
You would have been 4 or 5. You would have been 4 or 5. Okay. So, the big news is that Collider is saying that apparently the Obi-Wan movie has been put on hold.
Yeah.
They're saying that it looks like that's being frozen. We have a nice little Obi-Wan movie.
Man, I wanted this movie real bad.
And we'll get to that. We'll get to the Obi-Wan movie. And the other thing is that the Boba Fett movie, which James Mangold was going to direct, the director of Logan, may not be happening now, despite everything that had come out in the trade magazines. Trade is Hollywood talk for the Hollywood Reporter, Variety, those kind of things. Those news outlets were reporting that this was actually going to happen with James Mangold as the director. So, Forrest Clark, you say Star Wars is boring, but yet here you are on this conversation news thread. Very interesting.
Maybe more interesting than the movies.
Well, hey, Forrest, no one says you have to go anymore, and clearly, let's start with that, since no one says you have to go and see these movies anymore. Yeah. So, the big brouhaha, we'll say that, is that Solo, A Star Wars Story, suffered because of backlash from The Last Jedi. Go, Evan. What do you think? You think that's true?
I think it may have been more people not liking the spin-off series themselves. I think Rogue One probably left a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths. So a lot of people didn't like Rogue One.
Okay, well, I will say that I think there are more people out there that like Rogue One than I think that actually like The Force Awakens and perhaps The Last Jedi.
That's fair.
Because it's such a different story. It's its own thing. It shocks me how many people really rank Rogue One right behind Empire Strikes Back. I don't know why. Whenever I see the people's lists,
I wouldn't put it that high, but sure.
Rogue One is right up there, and it shocks me because for me, I saw the film twice in the theater. I find it to be very. You just kind of have to go with it. You just have to patch over a lot of things. There's too many leaps for the characters for me to actually stomach what's going on without wanting to put up my hand and ask questions.
No, I agree.
So,
Rogue One's not a perfect movie, but it's still fun.
Okay, and it made a lot of money.
Yeah.
And it made a lot of money, and it said that a standalone film could work.
Yeah.
I'm
going to say that I called this next bit with Solo. The fact that if Solo didn't do well, this is what was going to happen.
Sean Kelba says that Rogue One was awesome.
I liked it.
Force Star Wars is like a box of chocolates. Haha, nice. The two movies people were hyped for got put on hold, and Disney is like, we're still pushing Johnson's new trilogy. That's a very good point.
Did they mention that?
They did. Apparently, the next two things that are definitely going to happen, Collider is reporting that the Game of Thrones guys,
they're
they're
Weiss and what's his face?
Yep, you pretty much got their names right.
D.B. Weiss and David Benioff.
Yes,
Yeah.
their saga or their TV series, whatever it's going to be, is still in the works. Ryan Johnson's new trilogy is going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
But what the fans want, the Obi-Wan movie, the Boba Fett movie,
On hold.
on hold, out there in the darkness, doesn't know. Now, this sounds weird, but I recently reviewed The Art of the Last Jedi book. And not only was it a great book about, the artwork that goes behind everything, but it was also a great tool to see how far into production a lot of these films were. So when Ryan Johnson is already working on when he's already working on The Last Jedi, The Force Awakens wasn't even out yet.
Oh, wow.
However, Gareth Edwards was full on into production of what was going on with Rogue One. So the timetable there shows me that there might have been something that was a little bit further along than what the public wants to know. Now, the interesting thing about Hollywood is you don't have to, once you yell action on that first day, then the movie is into production. Until that moment happens, like there's no insurance, there's no anything.
Yeah.
So you can, like Superman Lives, the Tim Burton movie, they spent over $200 million in pre-production of that movie, but it never came out. They never got a loss on it. They never got insurance back on it that we know of. But that movie was never into production because they never actually sat down, got ready, people in front of a camera, and said action. That's a good way to get your movie that it's going to be made.
Yeah.
But if you never get to that point, then you're not going to actually get a movie out. So the pre-production in all three of those Star Wars movies, and post, because we were very far along in post in The Force Awakens when a lot of the artwork book was written for The Last Jedi, you actually get a sense of how these three things were moving and how the art departments were moving around and how the directors were stopping in, double checking on things, and how everybody was connected. So my belief is that they were probably in some sort of script phase for the Obi-Wan movie and probably for the Boba Fett movie.
I mean, wasn't Gareth... who was it?
Gareth Edwards?
Gareth Edwards, didn't he already write a Boba Fett and they were rewriting it?
No, that was Josh Trank.
Trank.
The
Man,
rumor was
that dude needs a break.
they believe that Josh Trank was actually further along in the production of a Boba Fett film, but then everything happened with Fox and Fantastic Four, and then everything got pushed away. So what this brings us to is, do you think that the backlash was enough to just say, well, look, Solo didn't make as much as Rogue One? So do you think that's enough for them to pull back?
No, not for somebody like Disney, I don't think. Because Disney, they have so much. I don't think one lackluster movie is really going to push them back all that much. And I think their biggest problem, which is something that I think I read in this Collider article, was that if they had put it in December, it probably would have done a lot better. I mean, you put it up against Avengers, Infinity War, and Deadpool 2.
That's an excellent point to make.
Yeah,
and I'm glad you brought that up, because I feel as if, for whatever reason, now we know that there was a lot of production problems, a changing of directors for a Solo story, also felt as if, for this movie, Disney / Lucasfilm didn't do their normal thing. Okay? They didn't do, there was no Star Wars Celebration this year to hype the movie before it came out. And usually Star Wars Celebration happens in April. Last year it happened in April. So there was no hype of bringing the cast out, releasing footage.
Yeah.
We hardly got, like, if you think back to The Last Jedi and The Force Awakens, and more so The Force Awakens, it was almost a year before we got a teaser trailer, a year before the movie came out with Big Hero 6. And then, nothing. For The Last Jedi, I think it was about a month later. But for Solo, whoa, man, we were held up with that.
Yeah.
So the hype there wasn't there. You're also correct in saying we waited 5 months. Those of us that have spent their hard-earned money on all the Disney products, seeing Star Wars, getting Star Wars on Blu-ray, getting the soundtrack, getting the books, buying as many of the toys as we want. Yes, John, no real Force Friday was another thing. You kind of have to say, we were Star Wars'd out. So I think a lot of people are also going to go, well, it's 5 months. I didn't really want to see this movie.
Yeah. And I also already spent my money on seeing Avengers Infinity War and seeing
Right.
Deadpool 2, and those were the priority at that moment because nobody was clamoring to see the Solo movie. Nobody really wanted it in the first
Right.
place.
So that brings us to okay, so let's read some comments here.
Yeah.
Matthew Kapolsky, Kapolowitz.
Kapolowitz.
I liked Rogue One a lot. I didn't think I would at all, but it was a superior modern Star Wars film. Forget the rest, make a Maul movie. Daniel Edward, you bring this up every time we need a Vader movie before Jones dies. There were already 6 Vader movies. There were 6. Mm-hmm. Okay? I would. It sounds great, but go read the Vader comic.
Oh, yeah.
That Marvel comic
definitely.
puts out. We both have read it. We love it.
It's phenomenal.
It's such a good book. That's your Vader movie right there.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Off topic, but there was a great superstar today, Big Van Vader. Yeah, we heard about the wrestler Big Van Vader passing away. Yes. Yes. Now let's get to the other point of the hype process. Is that there was no Force Friday this year. And another thing that we noticed a lot of, especially being here in action figures, is a lot of the display cases, the little squares that they put in the middle of aisles or on the corner of aisles, they were all Last Jedi. They didn't even bother to go out and make that first wave of Han Solo displays that were the little squares, so they were just kind of recycling things.
Mm-hmm. I saw a couple in the Target.
I've seen them now.
Yeah.
But when we had the fake, unofficial Force Friday, it was kind of like, there was no hoopla, there was no nothing.
Yeah.
But for The Last Jedi, they were handing out T-shirts and buttons, they were giving away porgs. There was a hype there. Disney, for whatever reason, and my belief is, they didn't want to hype this film as much, is that if they would have spent $200-300 million on the same amount of hype, that they would have had a greater loss of money.
Yeah, they would have spent a lot more on marketing to have the similar turnout.
Yeah,
It's a good point.
yeah. So, well, let's do some pros of. We're gonna put a little rebel symbol up there.
Yeah.
Let's do some pros of Disney / Lucasfilm putting things on hold. So I'll start with this gives Disney and Lucasfilm a chance to look at what's important, focusing on Episode 9 because that has its own issues with Carrie Fisher passing away.
Yeah.
And focusing on that story instead of turning out the marketing machine of a Star Wars movie every year. Mm-hmm. What do you think?
Another pro or a con?
Another pro.
Yeah, I think it's better to focus on the main saga than trying to tell these stories that take place in the in-between moments of the full saga. Like, nobody really needed a Rogue One movie, nobody really needed a Han Solo movie, and that's a whole other debate whether you really need any of these movies in the first place. And I think that's where these anthology movies suffer. You're trying to play to that fan, like, what's the word for it?
Fan nostalgia?
No, fan service. You're trying to create this fan service movies that are supposed to make people go, hey, remember what you loved about this?
Right. Here's all those things, and this fills
Yeah.
in all the gaps.
The biggest thing I think that Star Wars needs is to expand on the main saga and build new things. Tell us new things about the world. Now, I really liked The Last Jedi, so I'm excited to see where this saga goes more than I was excited to see what Han Solo did. I liked the Solo movie. Mm-hmm. I'll go on record saying that I really liked it. But was I excited for a Boba Fett movie? Meh.
That's all right. I'll go with that with the Boba Fett movie. So bring up the cons here. We'll do a con here for Boba. I think Boba Fett is a fascinating character. I think it's a character that until Attack of the Clones we knew nothing about. Mm-hmm. Did he die like a I don't want to say it, but like a bitch? In some ways,
Well,
I think
you said it anyway.
I said it anyway, but I think he did in some ways.
Yeah.
I like the fact that this was a character that had a mask that could be anybody. Yeah. It could be you. It could be me. It could be a woman. It could be an alien. We had no idea what he looked like. So anybody could be Boba Fett, and anybody could imagine themselves as Boba Fett. Mm-hmm. Once we gave him a father, and that he was a clone, and that all the clones were him, it created this whole extra thing that was fascinating. Mm-hmm. And I think the Clone Wars, the cartoon series, really dealt with what it was like for that child to lose his father
And grow up,
and
yeah.
what he was going to do next in the world. But what I'm just basically saying is, it's not necessary to tell that story.
Yeah.
The man with no name is far more interesting than the man with a backstory, a love interest, and 20 action figures that we didn't have before.
Yeah, that was part of your problem with Solo. I remember talking to you about is that
Yeah.
you're taking a little bit of mystery away from this character, that his backstory being empty was something that you could fill in for yourself. You can figure out what Solo was like.
Well, part of the Solo problem, I thought, was we didn't really see him majorly betrayed by anybody. Like, I didn't feel, spoilers, at the end, that Kira really betrayed him.
I think it's been long enough.
Yeah, Kira didn't betray him.
Well, I think they were setting up. I think they're setting up more movies.
Well, see, that's the problem.
Solo.
It's when you set up another movie and another movie and another movie, I feel as if somewhere along the line, the story that you're telling loses its punch.
No, I think the difference is that they're telling a story in 3 parts. That's what Star Wars has, that trilogy. That's all of the movies play to each other. The first 3 make sense together on their own. I mean, Return of the Jedi, you really kind of need the first 2.
Okay.
But I think what they're trying to do with this new saga is that every story leads into another, and it's this one big event, this one trilogy that each movie is a part of this story. Like, The Force Awakens needed what happened in The Last Jedi. You needed to have that retrospective of seeing The Last Jedi to really appreciate what happens in The Force Awakens. And I think the next movie will build upon that later.
Well,
so I think what they're trying to do at Disney is they're trying to make a 3-part story out of the Han Solo, because he's not the guy that we know when
he's not yet. And I did like that part. He wasn't that guy yet.
Yeah.
So let's go to the pros. Let's switch. I like our graphics. I like that we have graphics. Trust me, we are going to talk about the Old Republic in a minute or two.
I will be right back. I'm going to open that door.
Evan is going to walk out of the room. So it's a little hot in here in the studio today. These lights are just shining down. Let's see here. Sean prefers that they would go back to the Old Republic. It's a good character that made some good money. Let's see here. If they want to shell out the money, this is Shane Mays. This is Sean Mays. If they want to make some money, make these movies, I'm not going to complain. I simply don't have to go pay high retail markup. Maybe after they realize the box office isn't blowing up as much as anticipated. Not really look at Infinity War. That was a build-up and how long it looked and how... That's true. Good point. And never seen the Infinity Wars. Neil, I've never seen Justice League, and I'm fine with that. So, I mean, we can...
Those are 2 different things.
Different strokes for different folks.
Actually, somebody was talking about the Knights of the Old Republic.
Yes. Let's talk about the Knights of the Old Republic. Now, this is just something that everybody wants.
Yeah. I mean, I like the idea of going back and seeing what everything was like before the Jedi are like, yeah, I can't sense anything. We're kind of... You need to know where the Jedi come from to appreciate where they are in the prequels, I think.
I could give two Minox butts about the Old Republic. I really don't care. Like, nothing. Don't care. I'm a Star Wars fan as true as you can be. Don't care about the Old Republic.
Can I pitch you my Netflix series?
And I have 3 of the figures. What is your Netflix series? Now, bear in mind, that did not seem to be on this list of things that were getting the old, whoa, hold on there by the mouse.
Yeah.
That apparently the Netflix series with Jon Favreau is still that's not even mentioned. It's not even being mentioned.
My pitch for a Netflix series having to do with the Old Republic is you do the Rule of 2 with does Darth Bane, right?
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, it's in the Legends stuff now. I wanted to do a story that it's Darth Bane who recruits a Master Jedi to take out the rest of the Sith.
Okay.
They work together throughout the series to take out the rest of the Sith to make it down to just 2. This is how the Sith become just 2.
I like the idea of a series of bad guys.
Yeah.
I like that. Yeah. And I think that the Game of Thrones guys are perfect to set it in that universe at that time.
Yeah.
It's just that every Star Wars nut screams Old Republic, Old Republic,
Old
Republic.
Well, it's because they want to see more Jedi and more Sith. They want to see more lightsaber battles that aren't just
and I think in some ways, the prequel trilogy really robbed that of a lot of people.
Yeah, because
they wanted to see
Yeah.
full-on Jedi versus Sith in a huge, like Braveheart. They're running at each other on the battlefield. Which, with robots on a blue screen or / green screen in Attack of the Clones was pretty boring.
I don't even want to think about it.
Yeah. So let's see here, but this is Disney Star Wars. Does the Old Republic series even count as canon for them?
No, it doesn't anymore.
Because
but they can
it's
still
considered
draw.
legends.
Yeah, they can still draw from it. I think that's why they named them legends, because it's something they could pull from if they wanted to.
And Dave Filoni, who is the supervising director of the Clone Wars, Star Wars Rebels, and now Star Wars Resistance, he said that he once posted a picture of Grand Admiral Thrawn and said there's always truth in legends. So there's not things that they can't borrow that don't work. Grand Admiral Thrawn added to Star Wars Rebels was a stroke of genius. It was so good. And it even sets up a whole nother... Did we pause?
Yeah.
Should we just keep going?
I think it's going again. Just give it 1 second.
Stream probably died. It happens sometimes. Refresh. There we go. With the end of Star Wars Rebels, the end of it takes place after Return of the Jedi, and we set up a whole nother story for those characters to go off and do something. I would like to see all of those actors and actresses go off and play their animated counterparts as real people and tell those stories. Now,
I missed what you just said. I'm sorry.
The end of Star Wars Rebels jumps to the end of Return of the Jedi, and there's a quest for all those characters. I would like to see those actors and actresses play themselves with everything else on, and moving on.
Daniel posted the chat in a Star Wars group. Thank you, Daniel.
Thank you, Daniel. We are trying here. So, Obi-Wan. This is the movie that we all want.
Yeah.
It seems to be the one that everybody agrees on, that the star himself, because would you tap somebody other than Ewan McGregor? No.
He's the right age to do it.
Right. He would come. He's already said that he's wanted to do it. Images of Ewan McGregor working out wearing the Obi-Wan beard have surfaced online to get back in Jedi shape.
This is the one I'm disappointed about.
Well, it seems like this is the one we actually want. I don't know why. I think that it had something to do with Lawrence Kasdan saying he wanted to tell a Han Solo story, and then Disney was like, hey, why not? This guy wrote Empire and Jedi. Let's let him do it.
And Force Awakens.
And he co-wrote Force Awakens, which was a great move because J.J. Abrams brought him in. Yeah. I think he did, and brought him in and helped him really work this out. So the Obi-Wan movie is something that we all want. Where and when and how and all that other things that take place is really open to interpretation. Mm-hmm. But what you have is you have the right element, and that's Ewan McGregor reprising his role that we all associate with.
Who's the best part of those
prequel movies. Oh my God. I mean, if you just watch... it's hard to sit through episode 1 and 2. I mean, just really hard to sit through that. 3's okay.
I actually like 3.
There are times where you just, oh man, I can't even get into it.
It's just bringing back too many bad memories.
The key element is that you have McGregor. Yeah. And I think that with that starting point, when you look at a Boba Fett movie, what do? Do you cast Daniel Logan, who played the young Boba Fett, who's now like 35 years old, to play Boba Fett? Yeah. What kind of an actor is he? Yeah. Without the helmet on. We saw him as a little boy. He's been in a few things. And as far as I know, he just appears at Star Wars conventions. Right. So, he might be a working actor. I have no idea. But it's not like I've seen him in the last Fast and the Furious movie or that I saw him in with Anthony Hopkins acting in some, British period piece. Yeah. So where is he as an actor right now in his career? That's a whole nother question. So do we recast that? You're like, oh, no. The guy in the helmet isn't the guy who was the clone of Jango Fett. It's a guy who stole his outfit.
Yeah, that's the reveal that I had. The idea that I had for this Boba Fett movie was that he crawls out of the Sarlacc pit. Yeah. His helmet he takes the helmet off right away. He's breathing heavy and then just goes into the story from there. Right.
Or do you set it up that Boba Fett was actually like a series of guys, all clones, played by Timo Morrison.
Yeah, the Dread Pirate Wesley.
Yeah. Timo Morrison gathered up some clones, trained them, and now they were like their own little business venture, and they would go out and hunt people throughout the galaxy.
That would be cool.
Thus creating... There's so many places you can go, but Timo Morrison is an actor. He's in all kinds of things still to this day, a lot of sci-fi stuff, but he's an actor. We've seen him in things. Do you bring him back? he's not a name above the title. And that creates a problem because it's not someone who goes, oh, it's just a Star Wars movie, I'm going to go see it, whoever's in it. That doesn't, we've now seen that does not work.
Mm-hmm.
So who do you cast as Boba Fett that's going to actually bring people
Joaquin Phoenix. Sean says, I'd like an Obi-Wan movie, but at the same time, he's stuck on Tatooine creeping on young Luke. You can take it to Mandalore, maybe. He can go to Mandalore.
I think...
do that Clone Wars.
Star Wars Rebels showed us that, he's there, he's watching, but it doesn't say that he can't have adventures. And Marvel Comics has dived into that, about being a Jedi no more and how to keep his identity secret because they can't have a Jedi on that planet. It could draw attention to him and Luke and all those other things. We could have it. We don't know what he does the second he drops off that child until maybe he gets a call. Maybe he gets back to the ship and all of a sudden, Luminara contacts him and says, I need your help. I need you to come and save me. It could be anything.
Yeah.
So, and stop with the sagas, the 3 movies. Just tell one story and then be able to move on from that point. Like, the idea of Han Solo becoming more of who Han Solo is in A New Hope, that's appealing to me, but I think we're not going to get that now because of this box office draw.
Yeah,
So, one of Solo's greatest strengths in that whole film was the fact that you actually could connect the dots with a lot more Star Wars than you ever could before. And a lot of that had to do with the criminal underworld. So, now, what?
Explain to me how Maul fits in.
Maul is part of Crimson Dawn, somewhere in the Clone Wars. See, that somewhere at the end of the Clone Wars, he's moved from being in charge of Mandalore by the Emperor for other things that he has to do. Now, Sons of Dathomir, probably should read that. Goes into that. I haven't read that book. And then it's going to explain how he's kind of orchestrating things on a criminal empire. In Rebels, we see the broken old man who didn't really get to do all the things that we thought he was going to do. So that's another element. But between Rebels, which happens about, 4 or 5 years before Rogue One, to that's our gap. That's where Solo falls. Between the end of the Clone Wars and where Rebels starts, Solo falls right in there. So, could be lots of things.
Sean says, the Sarlacc pit melted Boba's face and skin. Easy excuse to recast.
Could
You
be.
can make him anybody.
Could be. Primo the Clown here. Hi, guys. Hello,
Hey,
Primo.
Primo.
So, I don't know.
Yeah, it's disappointing because I like more Star Wars movies.
But it's not surprising.
Yeah, it's not surprising. I called it. I called it a month ago. But, sorry, Songbird.
It's amazing we know who Songbird's name.
Yeah. Well, we opened it.
Yeah, it's just one of those things that, one of writing a trilogy.
Step one of writing.
Sean, I like this. Step 1 of writing a trilogy, plot your trilogy before filming the first 2 movies.
Yeah.
I totally agree with you on this, Sean. That's one of my issues with The Force Awakens to Last Jedi, and I like both films a lot, is that when you hear them talk about, I need you to do this, I need you to do that, when they're looking back and talking from one writer to the next, you're like, wait a minute, isn't there like an outline, like when you write like a term paper? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These things are going to go down. Leia's going to die. Luke's going to die. Nope. Leia's not going to die. That was all just a ruse. She's going to live. Third movie's going to be hers. First movie's going to be Han's. Middle movie's going to be Luke's. It's okay if Luke dies. He can be a ghost.
Yeah.
So it's
they're going to have to lean on
one
that
of those
pretty
things.
heavily.
But in knowing what they knew, and I understand the respect that they paid to Carrie Fisher by not killing her off at the end of the film, why kill off Mark Hamill?
Because he could just
Why?
be a Force Ghost from then on.
He can be a Force Ghost, and I like the idea of that the young pupil has to do it on her own and can't rely on the master.
Same thing that happened in A New Hope.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So in a lot of ways, that does work.
Yeah.
But when you lose one of your stars, you've already killed one of your stars in the real world. In your movie.
Yeah.
Your second one dies in the real world, and the third movie, you've got nobody.
Yeah.
So, yes, I'm sure Hamill will come back.
Yeah.
It would make sense that she could see him.
Yeah.
But what are we going to do?
Don't you have to? No, he would have trained to be able to do that.
Yes.
Shane says I'd rather see series over movies. I agree because I think I like TV more than I like movies. Just because TV you get more time.
Well, that's the thing with, I think, Star Wars kind of established that if you can tell a story with characters over a long period of time, people are more tuned into that. You see them as chapters, the 4, 5, and 6. Yeah. However, with a TV series, you can have smaller characters develop that can become lead characters later. Yeah. The Walking Dead does this to a point. Shows like Breaking Bad, Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones, you watch the first season, it's almost as if like, how many people are still alive in this scene? Yeah. It's like 2, and it's like there might be 30 people in that scene, at a wedding, and all of a sudden you're like, no, none of these guys matter anymore, and they're all gone. So I too would rather see a series.
Yeah. Because then you get like, if they do like an 8 episode run for Netflix, you get 8 Star Wars movies.
Exactly, and you have the time to develop, tell these stories, all of these things. I think Lucas, years ago when he had the Star Wars TV show and he was really going to push that like he did with Young Indiana Jones, I think he just did the numbers, said it wasn't going to be worth it, and just kind of decided against it. And that's when he was done and he walked away. And I think the fanboys actually beat him up. Like he said it in some interviews lately that he wasn't interested anymore. And, that's his prerogative. Yeah. He can walk away from it. But at the same point, there's all these people now, like the last 3 or 4 days has been nothing but news outlets reporting on what George originally wanted to do for the next 3 movies. Well, that's great. George, sit down, type it out, write a novel, sell it as a comic book, do those kind of things. Yeah. We're still going to read it. We're still going to want to know. It's just one of those things. Let's see how that happened, how you would have done it. It's fine. Yeah. I tell my nephews who are 9 and 10, and they want to know about the time of Legends, when it's all these other Star Wars things, and I put Shadows of the Empire in his hand, and I said, this is a book that happens between Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. I said, for me, this book counts. This book matters. And I gave him the original Thrawn trilogy, The Heir to the Empire, and I said, this is what might have happened. I said, just enjoy it and have as much fun with it as you can. And when it comes down to it, that's all it is, really. These are just stories. It's a lot of fun. It's fun to talk about. But when we lose things because of financial box office and mistakes by those in charge, I think that's when we really get upset.
Yeah. Matthew says young Leia movie could be cool. Wouldn't you want to see what made her so battle-hardened before A New Hope? Or did Rebels cover any of that? I don't know about Rebels, but I know there are several books, I think.
There's a few books. Rebels showed her as someone who wasn't going to put up with what was going on.
But there was the Leia book. Mm-hmm. There's by Claudia Gray, another book by Claudia Gray's Lost Stars. She appears in that. Lost Stars is fantastic, by the way. And I noticed the other day they made a manga of it, too.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Okay. I'm still waiting for them to show up in movies. The 2 main characters of that.
Nice.
James Primo says Star Wars was meant just for movie screen, not for TV. I'm not entirely sure I agree
James,
with that.
I kind of disagree with you on that because I watched the Clone Wars religiously. Some of the stories are, other stories are just, they're so good you can't believe they're 30 minutes long. Star Wars Rebels, for me, from beginning to end, there were season finales or cliffhangers where I was literally on the edge of my seat and I couldn't believe that certain characters, like what their outcomes were and how well it was written. And that's developing a character over so many episodes, so many months, and not trying to ram it.
Become attached to that.
Right, not trying to ram everything into our throat.
Yeah.
Star Wars can make more money in the movies than on TV. Monday is my 51st birthday. Meet Primo the Clown. Okay, James Sanchez.
Neil said, I heard that Lucas was going to go more into the Force in 7, 8, and 9.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
Yeah, that's what I was talking about.
Right.
That his whole thing about the creatures that were manipulating the Force.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, if that's what the guy wanted to tell and he had that story to tell,
and he should just
George,
tell us it.
Write a book. Write a book, please. People will buy it.
Yeah. I think they are going more into the Force with 7, 8, and 9.
Yeah.
Just the way that they're doing it.
Well, you might not know this, but I mean, as successful
Learn me something more.
as Willow was, George Lucas teamed up with X-Men writer Chris Claremont and wrote, I think it's 2 books of what happened after Willow. Okay. And one of those books really, it jumps Laura Dannon, the little girl, to a teenager. So there's almost like 10, 12 year gap of what happened and how everything changed. So, I mean, the guy has it in him to sit down and write a novel.
Yeah.
So let's do it.
But does he still with all those billions?
Well, he opens a big museum in L.A. I mean, the guy's had a huge impact on pop culture, mythology, the way we look at movies. If he just write a novel, let's read it. And what did you say here?
51-year-old man in a clown suit is nightmare fuel.
Yes, it's very true. So again, Collider has reported that the Star Wars standalone films are on hold. Their focus right now is the Game of Thrones crew. They're going to be doing their movies or TV series. It's kind of up in the air. And then we have Rian Johnson's new trilogy, which there's parts of me that are interested.
Yeah.
And the other parts of me are kind of like, I want stormtroopers. I want Jedi. I want smugglers. I want...
He didn't say when it was going to be set, did he?
Yeah, no, he didn't.
Yeah.
I want, Rodians. I want Twi'leks. I want the different characters or the species of those characters because that's kind of what makes it Star Wars.
Yeah.
If it's just set on the other side of the galaxy and it's, Rodeo Beach, okay, but is that really Star Wars anymore?
Yeah.
So I think that's part, and I read recently in an interview with Rian Johnson, he even said, what makes Star Wars? And that's what he's trying to focus on in his story. Though I do like when he slams the fanboys for different things that said could never happen, and then he points to like books that it actually
That was
happened.
my favorite tweet storm.
He's
It's
great.
right
Yeah,
here.
he's great. So right here, guys. And he even said, "I didn't make a movie to sell toys." Clearly, we were at Toys R Us today, and saw lots of Last Jedi ships. I think were still left.
A
couple of them.
It's Rogue One and Force Awakens. Still there.
Still there. But I think that's it, guys. Do you have anything else, Evan?
No, I'm a little bummed at this news, but if it just makes the next saga movies better, I'm okay with that.
Well, and I think
if they put all this money that they were going to put towards these spin-offs into a TV series, I will be happy.
Or the effort, the creative drive
the
behind
creative
those
caliber
things
that they have in
right.
the team. Yeah.
And let's think of this too. We have until December of 2019 before there is another Star Wars movie in the box office. This is our first December in 3 years without a Star Wars movie.
Yeah.
So that's going to be strange. Next April is Star Wars Celebration. So you could pretty much go about Star Wars stuff until next April in Chicago when Star Wars Celebration unleashes, and that would get people, I think, in a frenzy again.
Yeah,
like
people
they
will
get
be
them
like, "Where's my
excited
Star Wars?" Yeah.
about Star Wars, and the people who already bought their tickets, because the tickets went on sale at the beginning of June this year, they're the ones that are going to be there. They're going to be ready. They're going to be the diehards, and they're going to fuel that fire even more.
Prediction to end us off here.
Okay.
Do you think we get a trailer for a new TV show at Star Wars Celebration next year?
Oh, for sure.
For sure.
And I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see something for Star Wars Resistance, the new animated series, neither stills or just concept drawings.
Is that really that far off?
I don't think it's that far. I think it's supposed to start in the fall. We're going to see that at Comic-Con, for sure. There's always a Star Wars presence at Comic-Con. You can bet on it. They have been there since, I think, 1976. There's always a Star Wars booth or table, and it's usually my favorite booth, but that's just me. But I had one more thing that I wanted to say to you. There's also no D23 this year. So, again, Disney is pulling back on the marketing. Some amigos, they don't have to. Why? Yeah. We're all going to go see whatever Disney movie comes out.
That's true.
Incredibles. #1 family, animated, blah, blah, blah.
I can't believe I haven't seen that yet. I can't believe I haven't seen Incredibles 2 yet.
So, next year, we get a Star Wars Celebration and we get a D23 with a Comic-Con in between.
Yeah. It's going to be a lot of Star Wars news.
It's going to be a lot of Star Wars news. Will they hold back on Comic-Con? They'll probably release a sizzle reel like they did a production, in production kind of thing. Which for me is great. I love those. Yeah, because you always see things you don't normally see in the movie, or aliens, or characters, or people just smiling and having a good time. Yeah. I like the sizzle reel. But
that bit of Shaun of the Dead.
Simon Pegg.
There we go. Simon Pegg in the suit, and he has the cold towel on his forehead. And he says, "I'm burning, but I burned for Star Wars."
I burned for Star Wars.
Oh.
You'd be surprised what you can do for Star Wars. I stood in 110-degree heat
like this room right now.
to watch a Star Wars Indiana Jones hybrid stunt spectacular at Disney World with George
Dude.
Lucas sitting there.
That's cool.
It was completely worth it.
Yeah, I would do that.
So we'll read our final comment here by Matthew Kapalowitz. He said he has seen tons of Constable Zuvios at his TRU near me. We were at one today. We have an Instagram video.
Yeah, I think we saw two. There were two. There was two Kazakhstans and probably
There
two
were
dinners.
four.
Oh, there were
I took a
four.
picture of it. I haven't put it up yet.
Okay.
So thanks for tuning in, guys. We just thought we'd do a quick Star Wars talk. We're
Yeah.
going to try and do these more often, as long as we can at the moment. So let's just.
We have two videos probably coming out this week.
Yes, we should have two videos. We have a survival guide of Comic-Con that we're working on, since Comic-Con is less than a month away now, and then Evan's working on.
I have a top 10 of the most anticipated games coming out from E3 that should be up in the next few days.
Cool. Plus, we are doing two monster lists right now of Comic-Con exclusives.
Yeah.
If you need to know, if you want to see, the mega list is tough. We're doing things like Hasbro, Mattel. We're doing individual articles that spotlight the Aquaman announcement that came out, and that maybe the Han Solo Empire Strikes Back Minot set that's coming out. We do an individual articles for those, but we have a mega list that is now staying on our website, which we've updated. There's a main slider. It's going through. It'll always have that mega list on.
I mean, how many times have you gone through that mega list? How many times have you updated
I have
that?
probably added maybe about 30 times to the list. We just keep adding.
Yeah.
So, and now we're going to do, there's so many pops coming out on a daily basis for Comic-Con that pop's going to have its own list.
That makes sense.
And we just got Saga pops today.
Ooh, they're new
Saga
Saga pops?
Candy Crush. Those Candy Crush figures. So, and a Hellboy pop and a Heavy Metal pop. So we are very thrilled about that. You guys play Star Wars X-Wing miniatures? If you do, what do you think about new 2.0? I do not.
I haven't either. It looks interesting enough, but I haven't done it.
I had an old coworker that was trying to get us to come in and play this every week. He wanted to do this because he said his kids just wrecked all his pieces. We usually ended up having Call of Duty night instead, so which was a lot more fun for some reason. It was, a bunch of 40-year-old guys sitting around playing Call of Duty, drinking beer and eating pizza. So, but that's it, guys. So thank you for tuning in.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
We'll be here all week, of course. And let's end with our favorite thing. We got 8 days to go on Toys R Us, guys. We'll see you on the other side.
Bye.